Unfortunately, it is inevitable that whenever I sit down to film a video, there will be somebody using a sledgehammer or drilling, or some arborists next door. That was a problem yesterday. Or a puppy getting in the way. That was well timed. I thought you were sleeping. All right. So, we're going to try and film a book haul. Let's see how this goes. I've got 3 lots of books here. Books that I was given by publishers, or in this case also by an author. Then we've got books that I have bought new, and then there are books that I've bought secondhand. And actually, there's another category. Things that aren't actually books, but they sort of fit into this because they are book related. So, without further ado, the first book is The Suicide Club, or just Suicide Club, by Rachel Heng. This sounds like a kind of dystopian where people live almost for, not forever, but averages 300 years, it says, and that should seem like a great thing, but actually life is not as great as it seems. And yeah, it sounds a bit like Brave New World in some ways. This is already out. It is available. And I haven't read it yet, but when I do, I will let you know what I think of it. It also came with a really cute little pin that says "They leave us no choice" and has the cover art on it. So, next up we have Sylvana the Greening and Sylvana the Turning. These are obviously 2 books in the same series by the same author, by Belinda Mellor, who is a local author here, and she gave me both of these copies because we are going to be working together. I'm going to be doing some illustrations with her on the first one, at least for now. And yeah, she helped me out with my picture book as well, so we're doing a kind of reciprocal thing there. Yeah, I've actually read both of these. I've reviewed the first one in my last book wrap-up, but I will be reviewing the next one as well, and I really liked both of these. They're very lyrical, crossover between kind of, I'd say, literary fiction and fantasy. Next up we have this book that I was sent by a publisher, and this book that I bought from the local bookshop. Yeah, so I have 2 copies of The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night in paperback. It's just come out in paperback, which is why I was sent a copy and bought a copy. I've now got 4 copies of this book because I've got a copy of the hardback, and yes, 2 copies of the paperback. But I do plan to give one of these to a friend. Yeah, so this is an amazing book by my amazing friend Jen Campbell, and if you haven't read her stuff, this would be a great place to start. Short stories, magical realism, fairy tale and folklore inspired, and just very entertaining and thought-provoking. This one here I bought purely because of the design. Lyra, can you get up please? Thank you. This is called A Guide for Murdered Children by Sarah Sparrow, and I just love this cover. I think it's so clever because it uses Comic Sans, and that is, as hopefully we all know, a big no-no in the design world, probably in the world in general. But it just looks like it's been put together in the 90s on a word processor and then had glitter put on it, and it looks like a little book, a little stapled book. It's even got the staples in the front and the back. Obviously the spine is a bit of an issue, but I just think it's brilliant. And I don't know if I'll read this book because it sounds terrifying. It says, well, one of the quotes on the back says, "There is no safe place to read this book." And it's a cross between Shirley Jackson and Stephen King, so, or yeah, The Silence of the Lambs of Our Time. Yeah, it sounds quite terrifying, but the cover is great. I just think that dust jacket is brilliant. There we got this one, which I knew nothing about when I picked it up, which is always very exciting to discover something in a bookshop. This had just come in when I went to the shop the other day, and yeah, it's The Psychology of Time Travel. Great title, very interesting cover, drew me in. It's got kind of stitching on there. I don't know if it was actually stitched or if it's digital, but Yes, very intriguing. And this, I've started reading it, and it seems that there are 3 sections, at least at the moment. I imagine there will be more later on, but in 3 different years, so 1967, 2017 and 2018. And somebody has been murdered in 2018, and in 1967 time travel has been invented. So this is a kind of parallel universe, I suppose, where this group of female scientists have come up with time travel. Very exciting. I love the idea of 4 women coming up with this. So yeah, lady scientists and time travel and mystery, I'm all in. And there's a book that I ordered in, which is Tobey Hanson, Work and Love. This is one of the many biographies of Tobey Hanson. I think it's the most beautifully produced, which may be why I've got this one, not another. But it's got black and white plates inside, and also colour plates. If I can find one for you. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. Yeah, there we go. And I have got very interested in Tobey Hanson recently, and I want to know more about her life and her work, so this seemed kind of perfect. Yes, this is sort of to do with a project that I'm doing as well, which I will be talking about at some point, but I feel like I've got enough that I'm talking about on here at the moment with a picture book and new book designs and everything, so that will be coming later in the year. Then, Lyra, you're making such a lot of noise down there. Chewing. Anyway, this book here, The Lost Words, and I'd been eyeing this up for a while. I saw it at the bookshop earlier in the year. No, it would have been end of last year, before Christmas. And then I saw on Simon Savage's channel that it was his favourite book, or one of his favourite books of the year so far. And I thought, oh, that's a book that I meant to buy and read. And so I ordered it in, and it's just gorgeous. It's by Robert Macfarlane and Jackie Morris. And I love Jackie Morris's work. It's so beautiful. Where was the one I had before? There we are. So this is what, oh dear, try not to drop the book. This is what the spreads look like, well, most of them. So we've got Acorn and a poem, acrostic poem from Robert Macfarlane on one side, and then a beautiful image from Jackie Morris on the other side. I adore her work. She did the most recent covers for the Robin Hobb books with the dragons and different animals on. Yeah, so often her work involves animals and nature, so I imagine that's why she ended up working on that project, and it's everything about it is beautiful. Speaking of beautiful books, I've got a stack of them here, and we're going to start with this one and this one, and put it the right way around, this one. So these were designed by a book designer called Margaret Armstrong, who I am fascinated by. She was an American book designer back at sort of the turn of the century, 19th to 20th centuries, and so she's got this kind of Art Nouveau style to her, and it's very distinctive. You can always tell when it's one of her covers or somebody trying to look like her. And I put myself in that camp because a lot of my work is very inspired by her work, certainly recently. So if you look at my most recent series of book covers of classics and fairy tales, then yeah, you will see a lot of influence from Margaret Armstrong. I will probably do a video about her at some point because I think she is a fascinating historical figure as well as an amazing artist. So that will happen at some point. Then I got these two books, which have very faded spines, but they're all about the moths of the British Isles, specifically about moths, not moths and butterflies, so that's kind of nice. If you've seen any of my videos recently or following me on Instagram, you'll know that I've just written a picture book about moths, so I'm quite interested by them. And this goes through some of the different life cycle of the moths. It's got lots of colour plates in here, details of their wings, and yeah, lots of scientific information as well. So, ooh, green moths, all very exciting. So yes, 2 volumes of that. And then another natural history book is Tiny Houses and Their Builders. And so this is about mostly birds, I believe, who build their own homes. It's got, yeah, little engraving type plates inside, all these illustrations. And I mean, the typography, it's got little ornaments and things in there. Very beautiful. The reason I picked this one up, bought it, I bought it online. All of these secondhand books were from ABE Books, which is an online site, a bit like Etsy, where it's a marketplace where sellers from all over the world can go and sell their secondhand books. So yeah, the reason I picked this one up is because I want to build a tiny house, not as tiny as these, but a very small house. Usually they can fit onto a trailer so that they can be moved around if they need to be, but more importantly, so that you don't need planning permission to build one. So it's not like a caravan where you move it around a lot. It's just yeah, more to get around that issue, but it has the added bonus of being able to be moved if you need to. Yeah, so that's my plan in the next couple of years, is to build one of those. So that just seemed so appropriate, and it's beautiful as well. So I should probably show you the first proof copy of Moth, which has come out pretty well. It's got flaps. The flaps are quite narrow at the moment. I do want them to be wider. It's got end papers or inside decorated papers. They're not true end papers because they're not stuck down, but you can't really get true end papers in a paperback. But yeah, I'll be talking more about that at some point soon. But I also got some little pins made up of Moth, which are really cute. Just little enamel pins, and I've got them with 2 different backings, and these will be going up on my website this week, maybe by the time this video is up, but I will put that in the description down below. The final 2 things are both things that are not books but are book related. So I feel as though this could be a book, but it's kind of nice to have it in this format. It is almost like a little filing system. It's a set of different typefaces from different periods. You've got Victorian, arts and craft, black letter, modern, eclectic, and postmodern. And yes, these just have examples of typefaces from those different periods and those different movements. And yeah, it's a great resource of these different fonts and font families. So this is very useful to me because I was particularly interested in the black letter section, because it's quite hard to find good examples in books, or I haven't been able to find a book of black letter typography, and also the Art Nouveau and Victorian. That's all very much in my wheelhouse of the kind of designs that I am very inspired by, like the Margaret Armstrong designs. And then we've got Botanicum postcards. Postcard set comes in a lovely little box, and these are illustrations from the book Botanicum, but in postcard form. So I might put this in a little frame, a frame with different, with different windows. I think that might be quite nice. But I love having them in the box as well, because you can just take them out and flip through them quite easily. Those are the books that I have acquired or bought. I would love to know, what is the most interesting or beautiful book that you have bought or found or borrowed in the past month? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know and start a bit of a conversation. If you want to find my stuff elsewhere online, such as the Moth book, and to learn more about that, and oh, before I say that, I've done a book trailer for this, which I'm actually really, really proud of. I don't often say this. I'm not an animator, so, and it's animated. So that makes it a pretty big achievement in my book. I'm very pleased with how it looks, and I did all the narration and the sound effects, you know, put together different sound effects, and yeah, I'm very pleased with the result. So I'd love it if you could have a look at that, because I think it's well done. If you want to find this as well as the trailer online and the pins and other things, I'm Holly Dunn Design, at Holly Dunn Design on Twitter and Instagram, and my website is hollydundesign.com. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!